Ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nico Snyman. I will be your presenter today, and I will be presenting making ISO 22301 a strategic advantage for Africa. Very important subject that we are speaking about today. So the agenda for today's webinar is firstly opening, setting the strategic tone, what ISO 22301 really is, Africa's risk landscape, and why this matters, and the strategic value of ISO 22301. For people that doesn't know 22301, it is Business Continuity Management System, and then the engine room in clause 8 that we will address and speak about, and then for compliance to strategy, what is the maturity modeling that we are using, and then integration into enterprise GRC. GRC, for people that doesn't know the abbreviation, it is governance, risk, and compliance. And then I will speak about technology as well a little bit, and then we are doing a case study, and then the key success factors, closing messages, and then a call to action. So Africa's unique realities. Africa has always been seen as the dark continent, and we can see why. So Africa faces unique disruption realities. Firstly, energy instability. I'm sitting here at the moment in my office in Johannesburg, South Africa, and our power has been off since yesterday afternoon, 2 o'clock. So it is now for the last nearly 24 hours that it is off. If we didn't have solar, we were going to be, or generators, we were going to be in trouble this morning. Political and regulatory volatility, climate impacts like floods and droughts. We have seen that over the continent and in South Africa over the last 2 to 3 weeks as well. Infrastructure challenges, cybersecurity threats, and most organizations treat business continuity as a compliance checkbox. And that is so wrong, because business continuity is not only a compliance thing. It is part of your business. If you're looking at the top here with, sorry, I just want to put my pointer on. If you look at these 6 challenges that we are facing daily, then this is not a compliance checkbox. It is actually a part and parcel of your business. A disaster recovery document. It is only a document that is lying there, and everybody wants to move away from business continuity management to resilience management. Why do you want to do that? Because that is actually part and parcel of your disaster recovery document. And the mindset need to shift from BCM, or business continuity management, is a strategic enabler of resilience. It is a strategic enabler of resilience, of growth and investor confidence. And ISO 22301 is not about surviving disruption. It is about winning the disruption. Very important statements there, because this is creating for you an opportunity that you need to be thinking of strategically. So what is 22301? So the core positioning there is ISO 22301 is a management system standard, and it is not a plan. Just remember, a management system is just like our humans. We are a system from our head to our toes. And everything in that system is dependent on each other. Your feet is dependent on your brain. Your hands are dependent on your brain. Everything is dependent on each other. So this is not a plan. A plan is lying there until you need it, and then you can go and take it. So the key insight here is it aligns with the ISO high-level structure. For context, in clause 4, in clause 5, leadership, 6 is planning, 8 operations, 9 is performance evaluation, and 10 is improvement. The strategic reframe of ISO 22301, or business continuity. The traditional view is firstly disaster recovery plan. Yes, there need to be a DR plan, and we need to plan for DR things, and there need to be a backup site for your DR and everything. But actually, if you're looking at it in a strategic view, it is the organizational resilience system. If you're looking in a traditional one, the second one there, it is IT driven. Strategically, it is enterprise-wide governance. Reactive is predictive and proactive. And cost center, as a traditional view, is actually a value generator. If you are just looking at the number of hours that we are disrupted in Africa, and we can also say that it is happening all over the world. Yes, it is, but not in the in the in the in the vastness and bigness as what we have got it in Africa. So it is a value generator. If you don't do business for that number of hours that you are disrupted, just think of it. How much money are you losing? If you're doing business where other people are not doing business, then you are creating value. Africa's risk landscape, and why does this matter? Firstly, the key risk themes is power instability, and that is all over Africa, in the SADC countries as well as the northern countries as well, and that creates operational disruptions. The supply chain fragmentation as well. There, we are so dependent on other environments that we don't create it for ourselves. Political and regulatory shifts. We have seen that over many years, and we can see that as well in the north of Africa, in Sudan, etc., as well as where there are elections. This is huge environments that we need to be addressing. Cyber threats increasing exponentially. The question there is why? Is it because we are Africa, and that the outside world towards Africa is saying, they are easy pickings. They don't have the infrastructure that they need to have, and because of that, we can actually expose them, and we can use that as a vulnerability to actually get things from them. And climate variability affecting the infrastructure. On a strategic insight is organizations that implement 22301 properly recover faster. Definitely, your RTOs and your RPOs is tremendously important. Where your RTO could be 4 hours, 5 hours, or 6 hours, you can possibly do it in an hour. Lose less revenue, definitely. This is what I just spoke about on the previous page, and gain the competitive advantage. How are you always looking, or are you looking at what is the competitive advantage that you've got? And the key message here is Africa is not high risk. It is a high opportunity for unmanaged risk. And that part there, the high opportunity for unmanaged risk, is also there, the high opportunity for vulnerability and threats that is going to be implemented against you if you are not using that as a high opportunity for unmanaged risk. The strategic value of 22301. Firstly, 4.1 is competitive advantage. I am going to address it in 4 headings. The first one is competitive advantage. The second one is financial protection. Third one, governance and board confidence. And then the fourth one is operational excellence. So competitive advantage is clients prefer resilient suppliers. Resilient suppliers is suppliers that is always bouncing back, that can deliver when others cannot. Enables participation in global supply chains and differentiates in tenders. Financial protection is it reduces downtime costs, protects revenue streams, and supports in insurance optimization. And then 4.3, there is governance and board confidence, aligned with King 4 Combined Assurance. Now, if you're looking at King 4 Combined Assurance, please go and search this for yourself. This is a document that has been issued by the Institute of Directors, and I think every country has got institutes of directors. I know that Mauritius has got one as well. If you go and search for King 4, you will get fantastic governance documents there, and specifically on King 4 and the new one that has been issued, I think, a month ago. is King 5. Now, King 4 is speaking about combined assurance. Combined assurance has been in the governance lingo for the last about 10 years, and they explain it very nicely. So provide structured reporting to ExCo and the boards. And 4.4, operational excellence, is forces clarity on critical processes. And critical processes, this is actually the crux of business continuity. Your critical processes, your critical assets, your critical documentation, your critical services, everything that is critical for your business during a time where your products and services are disrupted. Dependencies as well as interdependencies. How do you work with that? How do you have your log and your registers with your dependencies, and how each of these critical processes, what are their dependencies internally and the interdependencies, what you've got with your suppliers and everybody else, and recovery priorities. Very important that you don't have to recover everything to make your business work in a disruption. You just have to look at what is your critical services, your critical products, your critical environments, your critical processes, and how do we recover those critical ones immediately. And that is making a difference to your clients, to the supply chain itself, and also the speed of your recovery in terms of your RTOs. Then the engine room, clause 8. For people that doesn't know the high-level structure, clause 8 is always operations. Whether you are in quality management or IT management or AI management, it is always operations. Now, if you're looking at clause 8, so this is where strategy becomes execution. This is where you need to be on the ground level and actually understand what is happening in your business, what is happening with your operations. And to do that, the key components here are these 4 here. The first one is a business impact analysis. Now, the abbreviation there is BIA, and that is actually ISO 22317. Now, ISO 22317, if you don't have it, go and get it, please, especially if you're working with business continuity. 22317 has been reviewed, I think, the last one was issued, I think, in 2022 or 2023. That is the last updated business impact analysis standard. And the previous one was in 2019. The one before that was in 2015. So this is really what the international community is actually looking at, what effects and what is the key components of business impact analysis. And the first one there is identify your critical activities. Now, this is what I was speaking about earlier. What is your critical activities? Now, your critical activities is exactly what I was talking about there, your processes, your assets, your everything else. Then define your RTO. And for people that don't know this vocabulary, it is the recovery time objective. This is how quick can you recover from a disruptive incident that you can actually do business again. Is that 1 hour? Is that 30 minutes? Is it 2 hours? What can you do there? And RPO is your recovery point objective. This is actually going into the past in looking at how much information are we losing because we have backed up at 12 o'clock at night. We have a disruptive incident at 8 o'clock in the morning. What did we lose from 12 o'clock till 8 o'clock in the morning? Then risk assessment, align with ISO 31000. Very important there. ISO 31000 is the guideline in terms of ISO standards, in terms of risk management. And if you want to go a bit further in risk assessments, go and look at ISO 31010 or 31010. That is giving you about 50 different risk assessment methodologies that you can actually work with. Then continuity strategies. There are 9 or 10 continuity strategies that you can be looking at, from alternative sites to manual workarounds to working from home to a cold site, a hot site. No strategy also is a strategy. And then supplier redundancy. So please go and look at those, and those strategies is documented in ISO, what's it, 22320. Yes, go and look at that standard there, ISO 22320. There's a specific standard that is written around continuity, BCM strategies, and how to actually implement that. And then the last one, but also the very good one, is that business continuity plans. As I said two slides ago, business continuity is not about a plan. A plan is a process, yes, absolutely. But this is one of your critical processes or critical activities. If something like this happens, then how do you invoke the crisis management committee? How do you respond to incidents? What is your recovery procedures? And this need to be tested and enabled and continuously tested, and in testing and exercising as it is stipulated in the standard. Please go and check those things that you don't. There's 5 methodologies on this. The first one is a desktop exercise. The second one is a walkthrough exercise. Then the third one is a functional exercise. Then you've got simulation exercises, and then you've got a full scale exercise to actually test this before you are actually getting into a disruptive environment. What I have seen in my years of working with business continuity is that everybody wants to do the simulation exercise, just this one. Why? You are doing one exercise a year, you are losing time on that exercise, and you've got no combined assurance. This one here, you've got no combined assurance in any of your critical activities, your critical assets, your critical everything there, and processes and procedures, by not doing the combined assurance modeling of testing. Here is desktop, walkthrough, functional, simulation, and full scale. If you are doing these 3 first testing and exercising methodologies, you don't have to do a simulation every year. You are saving time there because you are continuously doing it, and you are preparing your business environment for exactly this. So if you're looking at the maturity model as a strategy, very important that you are looking at what is the explanation and what is the levels that you are deciding upon that needs to be described for your environment. That yes, it can be internationally recognized, etc. But what is the maturity model that you can actually build in terms of level 1, 2, 3, and 4? And you can go for various standards. There's one standard that is actually very nice, the ISO 21827, that has to do with the capability maturity model. You can go and check that. That has actually got five levels there, level 0 up to level 4. And this is also about optimized and integrated, aligning to your strategy. Level 2 is implemented, basic testing has been done there, and level 1 is documented, audit ready only. It is so you are on the lowest level of maturity there, and most organizations in Africa are at level 1 and 2, and I can attest for that. Really, we've been auditing all over Africa, from Ethiopia to Rwanda, Nigeria, South Africa, Mauritius, Botswana, everywhere. And where we are looking at the maturity modeling itself, we are seeing that companies are between level 2 and level 3. The strategic advantage begins at level 3 and 4. This is where you need to be driving your risk environment and your business continuity environment to level 3s and 4s. So if you're looking at the integration into enterprise GRC, is to introduce your approach. So our approach in looking at business continuity as well as risk management is we have got a model that we are looking at so for the last 10, 12, 14 years, that if we are doing business impact analysis or risk assessments, etc., we are actually looking at what is the people controls that you've got. What is the allocation of those the people controls? And you will see this as well in terms of your business impact analysis. The processes, the process, all the processes, what is the mission critical processes in your business? What do you need to have there? Your systems. And again there, what is the or what are the various systems that you are using, and what is the critical systems that need to be in place there? Your tools as well, technology as well. All of these, how are you actually working with this kind of model or a formula, P square is T square, to actually enhance your business continuity environment there? So the integration into enterprise GRC is the integration areas is firstly with risk management. Enterprise risk management, ISO 31000, and every company has got risk management. The question is, are they doing risk management correctly or not? And are you aligning with business continuity and risk management? Because risk management is all about the objectives. If the objectives are not integrated in the risk management, my friends, you can throw away everything that you've got. You are not driving the company then. You are not driving the objectives and your goals for the company there. You need to have that. And this is also in 22301, the connector between risk management, strategy in clause 5.1. I think it is 5.1a. It stipulates there that the top management shall ensure that there is an enterprise or business continuity policy, as well as business continuity objectives, and this is aligned with the strategic objectives or strategic requirements of the company. You need to have that, and it needs to be aligned, and you need to prove to and provide evidence to an auditor to actually say that this is done there. Show me the connectors. I can show you that, sir. There is the evidence for that. Information security, that is ISO 27001. Now, for people that don't know ISO 27001, guys, please go and get yourself, don't even bother to go and buy 27001. Go and get for yourself 27002. 27002 is a fantastic model of controls. There are 93 controls that has been stipulated there, that has been explained, that has been documented in various ways that you can actually learn from. And each control has got a purpose. It has got a connector to governance or to in ISO 27001, they're speaking about the CIA, that is confidentiality, integrity, and accessibility. Now that is so important. Go and get yourself ISO 27002, and you will have instantly in the IT environment 93 controls that you can actually ask about, and you have got those controls that you can actually check the maturity on, and that is going back to the maturity that we have got there. So please go and get that. Now just remember that number 27002 with 93 controls. If you look at the IT environment itself, so this is on 27002. If you look at personal information, that is the PIMS, that is ISO 27701, there is another 78 controls. Really? And if you look at the buzzword now at the moment, ISO 42001, artificial intelligence, there's another 38. So you are sitting here with a combined, I think, 230 controls that is there already for you just to go and list and to do a maturity analysis there. Super, super fantastic. Then compliance with ISO 37301. Go and check there. Compliance with that standard, it is linking to to ISO 37001, that is anti-bribery. Anti-bribery has got, with the compliance environment, it has got in the annexure also about 50 controls there. So please go, and you don't have to use your minds, really. Just go and address what is in the standards. Go and get it and see for yourself that this is what we are talking about. Then crisis management. Crisis management is also a standard in the family of the 2 to 300 family, and then performance management. And all of these, everything that I was talking here about is about performance management. Really, how does your controls perform? Are they on a 0 in the maturity analysis, or are they on a 4 or a 5? Are they mature or not? Are they at risk or not? Your compliance, your AI, your personal information, your everything else. Build for yourself a catalog of controls. Not only, yes, but IT has got ISO 27002, and but that is IT. No, forget that. Forget that. Business continuity is across the business. It's across the business. If you are working in customer service, you are customer facing, and you need to explain to a customer, sir, sorry, I cannot take your money now because my system is off, and I would rather lose the sale than to write for you a receipt in a book. How dumb can that be? That is killing your business. So you are saying to a customer that wants to pay that, and I experienced this last week, that somebody is saying to me, sorry, I cannot help you because my system is off. And I said, I want to buy this. I need this. Sir, but you cannot walk out with this because you haven't paid. But I want to pay. There's the money. No, but I can't. So strategic insight, ISO 22301 must not stand alone. As I said to you here on top, it must not stand alone. It is connecting the dots. It must be embedded into enterprise architecture. Absolutely. You are the designers of the enterprise architecture, of the GRC environment. You are the designers there. You are the architects. How is your house? How did you build your house? Did you build your house to be dilapidated? Or did you build a house to be withstanding storms and water and problems and winds, etc.? If you have done the latter, your architecture is well designed. Otherwise, go back to the drawing board. Then technology as an enabler. There's a lot of technologies that can actually enable you with incident management, with business impact analysis. One of the technologies is Isolytics. This is one of the products that we, as Crest Advisory Africa, is putting out in the market. You can go and look there at isolytics.com, and it will take you to the website there. So if you have got a manual BCM, then the question is, what is the real disruption if you are failing? And the capabilities is actually real-time incident tracking. How do you integrate that with your risk management? How do you integrate that with your ISMS and your compliance management? How do you integrate that, as I have indicated there, with your business impact analysis automation? Because your business impact analysis, I haven't seen a lot of business impact analysis that was done well and integratedly in any business over my, I want to say, 20 years of experience in business continuity. It is always standing alone. Really. This one is standing alone from that one. And this is the trend right through. Everybody just want to have an RTO and the RPO, and they are happy. If they've got those two things, they are as happy as a child in a sweet shop. Recovery dashboards. How are your dashboards working for you? And integrated risk and audit linkages. How do you do this? How do you do this? And then executive reporting. How are you making sure that what you are doing in terms of your business continuity management system, that you are actually tracking everything, and that you are tracking not only your static documents or static processes or static assets, but that you are tracking everything, and that you've got a live resilience intelligence. And that has to do with the simplicity of things, whether you are doing a checklist here. A checklist is could possibly seen as your walkthrough analysis there, or a functional analysis, or functional testing there. So please go and check. Your checklists are super important. Then the case study for Africa. Guys, we in Africa, as I said, on page 2 or 3, we are sitting with different challenges. And we are sitting with real challenges that is actually impacting our businesses, and power outage affecting operations across multiple regions. Definitely across it. I have been in various countries in Africa, and every time that I am there, I'm experiencing this. And as I said, when I started, we are experiencing it now at the moment here in my home, in my office, where I'm working from. So without ISO 22301, without it, there would have been chaos now this morning. I would not be able to present this to you. Financial losses. Yes, I'm speaking at the moment to a lot of people across our continent, and possibly internationally as well, for people that want to use this opportunity to actually learn more from Africa, to actually get into Africa to solve our problems. But they don't want to solve our problems, they just want to make money out of us. We know what is our problems. We know how to solve it as well. But do we need people from America and from Australia and from Europe to come and solve our problems? I don't think so. Reputational damage. Yes, Africa is a dark country because our lights are off. If you fly over Africa at night, you will see patches and patches of light. This is different if you fly over Europe or if you fly over America. Totally different. With ISO 22301, the immediate response activation. How do you do that? What is your response strategy in terms of that? The predefined recovery strategies. How did you plan for this? And this is coming back again to your business impact analysis. Minimal downtime. Your RTO doesn't need to be 12 hours or 9 hours or 7 hours. It could be possibly 1 hour or maybe less. And then controlled communication. Who is controlling the communication there? Now, I want to show you this. This is a case study that I one of my clients is actually working with the power source environment and distributing power between the SADC countries. Now you can see there some Zimbabwe, Angola, Namibia, South Africa, and you can see there that if we look at power interruptions, this is annually exposure to power disruption across Africa. Now, the electricity reliability remains one of the biggest challenges impacting businesses, economies, and the quality of life. There is for you a maturity scale as well, and you can see there that there is very low, moderate, etc. Now, if you go and look at each one of these, Uganda is actually the one there that is the lowest, that has got the least interruptions. That is already 200 to 1,000 hours per annum. If you look at Mozambique, that is 700 to 2,000 hours, and that is moderate. Eswatini as well, that country there. Lesotho as well, 700 to 2,000. If you look at South Africa, it is 26 hours to 1,500. That is moderate and improving. This is now for the last year or so. We were bad. We were super bad. And you can see that there, it was 2 to 12 hours a day. That was previously. We are at this space now at the moment where we are looking at 26 hours to 1,500 hours per annum. And this is moderate and it is improving. Now, if you look at Namibia, it is low to moderate. So it is in that bracket range in a 2, 2 or 3. And then for Angola, it is high. And yes, guys, this is what we are talking about here in terms of, if you look at this, you could say, okay, that is not so bad. Let's measure this. Let's measure this in terms of international standards. International standards is talking about 10 hours, less than 10 hours per annum. That is international standards for developed countries. We are not underdeveloped. Not at all. I don't believe it. If you're looking at our countries, at our cities, at what we've got, at our aircraft are flying the same as any other aircraft in the world. Whether it is Seychelles aircraft or any other aircraft that is flying on this continent. Ethiopian Airlines is at the moment the biggest contributor to actually a best practice in business continuity. And we are so proud of them. But this is, if we can be on an international level on aircrafts and landing rights and airports and all those kind of things, why can't we do anything else in the same fantastic manner? We are sitting, so less than 10 hours for developed countries. Less than 10 hours. It is actually between 1 and I think 5 or 6 hours per annum. We are losing between 1,000 to 6,000 hours per annum. That is huge. We are living business continuity every day. Just think of it, if we can get this right, and we are claiming those 1,000 to 6,000 hours of disruption back, and we can turn that into an economical value. My friends, we are going to outsoar everybody in the world. Really. We are going to be better than everybody. And this is what we are hoping for. This is what we are driving to. This needs to be done. And we need to get a grip in terms of the things that we are doing. So, the key strategic insights here, the normal distribution, as I said to you, it is 1 to 5 hours a year in developed markets. And I'm not even speaking about first world markets, developed markets, 1 to 5 hours a year. We're losing 1,000 to 6,000 a year. This is not a risk scenario. It is an operating baseline. We are working with this every day. We are testing this every day. We are working with this in a real life situation. We are doing a business impact analysis on a daily basis, but we don't know it. We don't quantify it. We don't look at what is the loss of our productivity for those hours. What is the increased cost of generators? If I had to run my generator now for the last 12 hours, the cost of diesel, of solar, yes, solar is costing money as well. It is not only that it is free from the sun. No, there is capital expenditure that you need to implement there to get that solar and those battery systems in place that can actually carry you for the whole day and night. Reputational damage. What would have been from my reputation if I didn't pitch up now this morning because of a power outage? My friends, the PCB would have said, we will never ask Nico again to do this kind of webinar. Really, because we cannot trust his system. And the system is not my system, it is a country system. But yes, it is my system. Because I need to look at generators, I need to look at diesel, I need to look at solar. I need to make sure that my Wi-Fi is connected and that everything is working well. And the supply chain breakdown. So the annual exposure to power distribution, Africa versus the global benchmark, is Africa, once again, between 1,000 to 6,000 hours a year. Developed countries, 10 hours. And in some of our African markets, organizations lose the equivalent of 3 to 8 months of productive time per year due to power disruptions alone. 3 to 8 months. Come on, guys, we can do better than this. Really. We need to be strategic about what we are doing. And yet, many still treat business continuity as a document. Really? Really? We are living this every day. This is a survival strategy. This is a resilient strategy. This is why in South Africa, people want to change business continuity governance, or to business resilience governance. And resilience is actually survival. It is how can you bounce back and how quickly can you bounce back. So forget about all these fancy names and those kind of things. Let's fix our environment. So the key success factors. What makes it work? Firstly, leadership. Leadership need to commit, and I'm saying leadership need to commit on all levels. All levels. So from government levels to your power suppliers, they need to commit to this. Integration with business strategy. It needs to be part and parcel of your strategy. This is actually documented in ISO 22301 clause 5.1a. It says there it must be your business continuity objectives must be aligned and supporting your strategy of the business. Regular testing and exercising. This is what I was talking about. Those 5 exercises. You don't need to do simulations so often. You don't, because that is causing business interruption on its own. That is costing you money because everybody has to evacuate. And yes, the place can burn down. It's not a problem. But let's claim back our 3 to 8 months of productive time per annum. So that one, as I've said, it is desktop exercising, it is walkthrough exercising, then functional exercise, simulations, and your full scale. And the data-driven decision making. What is your data and how does your data have anything that you can actually work with to make sure that your data is driving your business to lessen the business impact? Technology enablement. We're talking about technology enablement. Fantastic. If you don't have power, technology doesn't work. Then you have to go back to paper. And if we want to be in the dark ages still with paper, and that is really in the 15, 20 years back now, I haven't actually worked with paper since about 2005. That's a long time. That's about 20 years ago. So technology enablement, yes, you need to go and do that. If your organization operates in an environment with up to 6,000 hours of disruption per year, then business continuity is not compliant. It is a core strategy of your business. How do we overcome that? One of my clients, they are saying that yes, we are doing this to lessen our carbon footprint, etc., to go over from the grid to solar. It's not about that. It is about disruption per year. We are making sure that there's no disruptions. Why are you seeing all these fantastic solar farms? It is because of that. Some people has actually seen this strategy in terms of solar and in terms of alternative energy. The closing message. In Africa, disruption is not the exception. It is operating environment. And you need to take notice of this, and you need to be cognizant of this. 22301 is not about compliance. Really. We are talking about it is a core strategic pillar of your business. It is all about building organizations that thrive in uncertainty. We have been exercising these things for the last many years. And if we are looking at our experience that we've got in living with this on a day-to-day basis, what value do we have that we can export to Europe, to the Americas, to Australia, to all these environments? Africa are living with it. We don't want their solutions in our environment. No, they've got their own environments to be thinking about, but they don't have 6,000 hours a year that they are losing. We have got it, and we are still thriving. So, call to action: assess your current business continuity management maturity. Please go and check it. And I'm not saying that only your business continuity policies and procedures, your total holistic environment in terms of what is the controls that you've got in terms of ISO 27002, in terms of PII 27701, those 200 controls that I was talking about. Which of those controls that is linking to ISO 9001, that is your product and your service, to actually ensure that there's no interruption there? And how do they link each other to each other? And what is your critical environments? I am always in my training, in our consulting, in our auditing even, we are talking about the Pareto model. Pareto model is so fantastic. Please go and check it out. Go and search it on Wikipedia. The 80-20 model. Determine what is the 20% criticality in your business, whether it is processes, whether it is assets, whether it is procedures, whether it is your products, whether it is your services. Go and look at that data that you've got there, that 20% that is affecting your 80% of the environment. Move from compliance to strategy. Now that you've got the data and the information about the maturity there on your 80-20 or the Pareto model, build this into your strategy, because now you know where are you making your best money. Now you know what you need to have to do there. Integrate BCM into enterprise GRC. Absolutely. Every board environment that we are facilitating, or EXCO, we are asking on risk management, we are asking this question because BCM is actually a subset of ISO 31000. Super important that that is interlinking. It cannot stand alone. It cannot be silos that is standing there in the wind. And enable it with technology. If you have got time, sometime, you can contact me and I will show you through our Isolytics system. We've got from enterprise risk management, business continuity management, compliance management, audit management, business impact analysis management on technology that is already integrated, that is already integrating it for you. You don't have to go and think. It is applying the standards, every standard that I was talking about now, from 22317, that's business impact analysis, to 27002, that's all the controls. We have got that already built into our system. And that is where technology is speaking to each other, coming from the same data sets, integrating with APIs all over. So you will get my contact details afterwards, and you can contact me and we can set up a demo for you. So please, there's our question and answer session. We've got a few minutes left. I think it is 10 minutes or so. So please, if there's any questions, please give it to us. Give it to me that we can see. There's my details that you can see. So please contact me. My name is Nico Snyman. As per the adverts there, as per the flyer that was sent out, my name is Nico Snyman. I'm the CEO of Crest Advisory Africa, and my phone number is there, +27 764 034307, and my email is nico@crestadvisoryafrica.com. Which disruption trend currently poses the greatest long-term risk to organizations across Africa. Electricity, absolutely. Secondly, we can look at natural disasters, and as I was indicating, I think on slide number 2 or 3, political unrest. Then the other question: are there specific sectors in Africa that are currently leading in business continuity maturity? It depends on what you are looking at. There are certain environments like banking environments that has to be very strong in business continuity, and they've got mirrored systems. They've got their own disaster recovery environments. They've got a shared environment that is very strong. So in terms of that, yes, we can look at specifics, but then you have to be specific about this. As I said, the banking and insurance environments, they have to be very strong. Which disruption trend across poses the greatest? Okay, thank you. I think that was from Gerald, and that is the only questions that I've got here at the moment, guys. But you've got my email address. As I said, it is there on the slide. It is Nico@Crest, CREST advisory africa.com. My phone number is there also on the slide. This whole presentation has been recorded. It will just go through cleanup a bit from, yes, Jones. Nadozi, can you send the question through, please? How many times is an organization supposed to carry out simulations in a year? I want to say it depends on your organization, and it depends on what do you want to achieve through it, and it depends on what is your strategy. As I said, I believe that if you are doing the full testing and exercising methodology, all 5 steps of it, you don't need to do simulations so often. Then you can do simulation possibly once a year, and it depends on is that only to do with evacuating your building? I want to say that's boring because you've been doing it for the last 10 years. Do something new. Really, do something new. People know how to evacuate and who is the wardens, etc. Do something new. Look at your critical environments. Your critical environment is definitely not that your building is going to be burned off annually. It's not going to happen. If it hasn't happened in the last 10 years, it is not going to happen now. So there's a question: what separates organizations that recover quickly from those that struggle during major disruptions? Fantastic question. Thank you for that one. I want to say strategy, planning, analysis, data. All those things. If you are looking into the future, into your crystal ball, you need to be looking at, again, back to all the other questions there, to be specific on your business. If your business is energy dependent, or if your business is in a low-lying area where there's water disruptions, or there's anything else, even regulatory and legislation can disrupt your business. It has disrupted ours in South Africa. Our legislation wasn't strong enough to actually manage money laundering, and we've been paying with our currency for this for the last 5 years. 5 years ago, our currency was 12 rand against the dollar. It is now at the moment, it was on its highest, it was nearly 20 rand against the dollar. It is now at the moment 16 something. So we are paying that for the last 5 years because of legislation, international legislation. So, as I said, with that, the previous question, planning, data, do your business impact analysis, look into the future. The next question, what is the best BCM strategy for unstable regulation, multiple regulation in most African countries? That's a good question. I was just speaking about it now. Actually, we need to be ready. We need to understand what is our legal and compliance obligations. Firstly, we need to understand not only 22301, but we actually need to understand 223307. That is compliance management, and to implement your compliance strategy and your compliance environment, to analyze your legal environments, your regulatory environments, where you are sitting with multiple local international laws that you need to comply with, whether you are only working locally or internationally as well. So your legal universe, super important, and out of your legal universe, your legal compliance management. How do you do that? There's another question there. How can organizations balance operational efficiency with resilience, especially in cost-sensitive environments? Understand your business. That's the biggest question. That's the biggest one, and this is actually linking to the previous the two questions prior. What separates organizations that recover quickly? It is the same one there. You need to understand your environment. If you understand your environment and you've got your finger on the pulse of that environment, guarantee you are going to understand and know what to do, and you can build that into your strategy. And you can save money. And you can save money. So for African enterprises, is there any link between ESG reporting and absolutely? Absolutely. ESG is in the compliance space, that you need to make sure that your environmental and social governance is in place. And that is your compliance obligations. And your compliance obligations is 3730301. So please, if you want to make contact with us, you've got our details. There's another question there. Most simulations are reactions to questions and evidence that external auditors seek. For example, quarterly DR test that shows the same results and managing is dragging their feet to address. What is the best way to address this issue? Especially, that is what external auditors are always calling for. And in what strategic ways can the GRC information security team convince management to address these issues and reduce recurring DR tests that give the same results? Back again to data. I've been working in risk management for my whole life, and if you want to, if you just want to explain to management and to convince them, you convince them with figures, you convince them with data, you convince them with that you've got the finger on the pulse. And if there's any incident and any non-conformance that is actually documented in this space, I would say get your data right, because your data is driving your strategy. Absolutely. And that will also answer the auditors. The auditors need to be educated as well, guys. They don't always know about the 5 or 6 methodologies of testing and exercising. And you need to bring that operationally to them and explain to them, this is what we are doing. We don't always need to have this and this and this. I've got my finger on the pulse on our critical assets and critical environments. With that, everyone, I want to say thank you very much. You've got my contact details. You can also contact Valentina, or the PCB, and we are there for you. Enjoy. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.